A cultura é um dos mais preciosos instrumentos de democracia. É um canal de expressão plural que permite a convivência de diferentes vozes, histórias e visões de mundo. E por isso a cultura, tal qual a democracia, deve ser defendida e fortalecida. Essa é a função da Lei Rouanet, a principal política pública de incentivo à cultura brasileira. Com ela, perseguimos a missão de assegurar o acesso democrático à produção e à difusão cultural. Ao longo de mais de 3 décadas, a Rouanet permitiu que inúmeras iniciativas culturais, antes inviáveis, ganhassem o mundo. Revelou histórias, preservou tradições e transformou vidas. Lei Rouanet, há 33 anos, tornando a cultura brasileira mais plural, acessível e democrática.
Casal de dançarinos se olham sorridentes. Uma banda orquestrada para de tocar. Logos: Lei Rouanet, Ministério da Cultura, Governo Federal, Brasil, União e Reconstrução.
Onde tem cultura, a Vale está. No poder criativo que nasce dos palcos, orquestras, das artes, das ruas e dos museus. Na valorização das diversas identidades brasileiras e na preservação de memórias. É valorizando a cultura que crescemos e evoluímos juntos. Instituto Cultural Vale.
Ministério da Cultura e a Associação Casa Azul apresentam 23ª FLIP, Festa Literária Internacional de Paraty. A FLIP conta com o benefício da Lei Federal de Incentivo à Cultura, Lei Rouanet, PRONAC 235060, e possui acessibilidade para pessoas com deficiências física, visual e auditiva. Tem patrocínio Jequitibá do Nubank. Patrocínio Figueira da Vale. Patrocínio Guapuruvu do Itaú e da Motiva, por meio do seu instituto. Patrocínio Cedro do Sesc, da MAC Móveis e de O Globo. Patrocínio Araribá, da Globo Livros. Apoio institucional da Prefeitura de Paraty, Governo do Estado do Rio de Janeiro, IFAM, Instituto do Patrimônio Histórico e Artístico Nacional e Museu do Território. É uma criação e realização Associação Casa Azul e Ministério da Cultura, Governo Federal, Brasil, União e Reconstrução. FLIP, o encontro da literatura com a cidade.
Em Paraty. When Valter Hugo Mãe came to Flip the first time 14 years ago and he lit up this auditorium, I was sitting back there in the audience. He told a beautiful story about what Brazil was in his imagination. He told that he had Brazilian neighbors when he was a child in Portugal that were very kind and generous people, hospitable, and that these neighbors, they thought that they were people from the future because they knew everything that was going to happen in Brazilian soap operas, who died at the end and who married whom. I don't know if these people from the future of Brazil, in Valter's imagination, could imagine what would happen with him in this country with his books and become this author who's loved, adored. He loves Flip so much. So we're extremely happy with this extra session with Valter here with us. To chair this conversation, Valter Porto will come forward, who's a journalist who, in addition to covering very well Brazil's editorial field, he's in passion for literature. So Valter Porto to chair the session with Valter Hugo Mãe. Good afternoon, one and all. It's a beautiful auditorium here. I'm Valter Porto. It's important not to confuse me in today's session with this. I'm a columnist in Folha. It's honored to do this extra session for a conversation with the one who's the Portuguese writer who's alive, living, best known in Brazil. So first of all, I want to thank the Flip team who did this loving invitation. Ana Lima Cecília gave me the invitation. I'm really happy that she was spared of the embarrassment of having to find another Valter to do this session, to share this session. We're namesakes. I can call forward Valter Hugo Mãe. Thank you very much. Valter's here at Flip for the second time. He participated memorably. She recalled in 2011 a round table that was marked striking for Flip, and for him we're going to be talking a little bit about this, because I would like to begin, Valter, with a brief introduction. Perhaps there may be somebody that doesn't know your literary work, so I've prepared this to give us a level playing field in terms of knowledge. He has a consolidated career, dozens of books, although he's still only 53 years of age. This tender age, he was born in Angola. He was raised in Portugal. He has poetic works as a songwriter, but he's known for his novels and short stories. He's debuted with Our Kingdom in 2004 and exploded with his following book, which is Remorsos of Baltazar Serapion, a historical novel with some of his favorite themes: the effects, the harmful effects of rigid manhoods and exploitation of people by people. He won the José Saramago Award that year. That year, Saramago, who's only the Nobel laureate. He was in Portuguese language. His first two books were published by 34, and he published, unfortunately, the former Kozak Naive, the works that expanded his fame here in Brazil, the Apocalypse of Workers, and the Machine to Make Spaniards. He won the Portugal Telecom called the Oceanos Award. Now, this novel concerning an elderly Portuguese man in an old folks' home, in context, unfathomable context with the Fernando Pessoa as the character. He published that in his first share in Flip here, Napula. We were moved, expanded the reception to his work. It was followed by invitations. They were ashamed that they wanted to. They proposed to me. They were proposing to me in marriage after that round table. I loved getting proposals to be for marriage by women. He didn't accept any of this invitation. He continued to write his work. How do you know that I didn't accept? You're still single. Okay. I'm grounded now. I'm no longer single. I'm grounded now on the beach. People are daring at one moment, and they don't really mean it, that they were actually proposing to me in marriage. If there are any new invitations to marry him, feel free. He's single and available. Everything all again. He's totally available. He's continued his work with another successful, the son of 1,000 men. It's a fisherman who reaches 40 years of age, searching for a son to make him stop feeling things halfway, but making him feel double through an alchemy of paternal love. This novel became a Brazilian film in Netflix this year. It's going to be launched this year. The Son of 1,000 Men, directed by Daniel Rezende and with Rodrigo Santoro in the lead role. Another person who's received a lot of marriage invitations, after which Valter, the Dehumanization, who was the finalist in the Oceanos Award in Iceland. That was where he went to the Biblioteca Azul, which is his home to this day. He's published Homens Men Imprudently Poetical in Japan, and Brazil's Disease is a book that takes place in Brazil. He got more focused on investigation, inner reflections, and autobiography against myself, religious meditation. Jesus in Darkness here in Paraty is going to launch what could be called an anthology of essays marked by the mourning. We can say it was the most difficult year of your life. The book is called The Education of Sadness. It's now being published by Biblioteca Azul. All of his work is full of sensitivity, dramatic sensitivity, spilling over in a constant at the skin, but it empowers the quality of the use of the Portuguese language, which is very proper to his work. If everybody who follows his work remembers that at the beginning his books were all written in lower case, where he found a justification in the effort to approach his literature to the pace of spoken language. Today he is searching for other ruses for new discoveries with each new book. Saramago already said that he felt he was witnessing the first novels, a new childbirth of the Portuguese language. Now we can see this language, it's grown now, even in adulthood, but always fresh. The freshness of adolescence. So we're here to introduce especially The Education of Sadness, which is a book which is mobilized by two major losses that you recently had. First, that of your great friend, Isabel Liano, and afterwards your nephew, Eduardo. Eduardo was the inspiration for Walter to write The Son of 1,000 Men, and he died of cancer before he reached 17 years of age. And Education of Sadness, in a word, his nephew. It's a good expression to talk about the process of mourning, education, and sadness. So I'd like to open up for you to begin to talk, Valter, about what you learned with his education for sadness, or if you still feel in a classroom learning how to deal with sadness and mourning. Valter, thank you very much. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to the people of Flip for opening the doors to me a second time now. I know that I feel really honored to return to Paraty thusly. I'm very happy to be here. And thank you very much to Netflix for producing the film to bring me here and to provide and foster our conversation. Thank you to Biblioteca Azul, the publishing house, to continue to publish my books, and thank you to all the people who read, all the people who justify and explain all of this, all of our work, all of our world. And concerning people who leave, if there were no readers, just imagine there might not be. Okay, I would continue to write anyway, but there wouldn't be anybody to read. But there might not be that many people writing, perhaps, but I would write nevertheless. Can't do anything else. I don't know how to do anything else. and I'm extremely nervous now. I prefer to say this straight away. I feel like I'm in the place. It's a wonderful place, both. I'm sort of, it's like I'm about to fall over the cliff. Either I'll fall over the cliff or take a step back. I feel like I'm very fat, and I can see my picture. I don't want to look that fat. I don't want to look disfigured with all these images. They're perpetuated. They never disappear again. They're eternal. And so we are always there with our self-esteem. I've already grounded on a sandbar. I don't feel I can't be grounded on a sandbar any more than somebody who died. Okay? So let me check now to see if I can look sideways to see if in a side view I might look a little bit more buff. Beauty is something that we have to feel. There's no way for other people to invent and to tell you you're beautiful or handsome. I don't believe in anything like that. I don't believe in myself, much less in other people. Okay? Okay, Valter, I don't know what you asked. I forgot already. Now I'm starting. I'm still kind of straightening up. I'm trying to breathe. Okay, look, there she's waving. Somebody's waving at me. Okay, great. First of all, you look fabulous. People love you. They love your appearance. Don't worry. Tuck your tummy in and take it away. I don't believe when people say that I look that good. The fact that you think that I look handsome is the effect, the DJ effect. What's a DJ effect? When the sound is good, and we love the sound in a nightclub, in a discotheque, everybody wants to fuck with the DJ, and the DJ is not always handsome. DJs are sometimes ugly, but people want to fuck him anyway. I look handsome because of the sound. I know that my beauty is the book, right? People look at me and they see pages in the middle, pages in the middle. But if I take my shirt off, most people run away. That's why it's not even fair to begin to say, okay, people want to marry Valter or Rodrigo Santoro. That's not a fair comparison. The reasons are very different. Rodrigo Santoro, you can't even compare to me. I write beautiful books. People want to, because Rodrigo Santoro, people pity him, so they want to marry him. He's so good looking that people want to marry him out of pity. I would like to talk about mourning and sadness, but I'm going to do an about face here. Okay, I just remember. I remember the question now. Okay, I remembered now. Okay, I'm so polite. I didn't want to interrupt. And when you started talking about sadness, I had to be able to breathe. I had to be able to go back to happiness, any kind of happiness, even very crazy happiness. So I believe that I'm in a crazy time of my life. But I'm here. I'm collecting marvels. I'm not interested in transforming my heritage, my memory, into something sad. No way. My heritage, my legacy, my memory, my past, my various different characters, my loved ones that have passed away. I feel very happy in my life always. That's what you say, that you struggle to transform the meaning of Isabeliano, who was one of the happiest and sunniest people ever in sadness. You don't want to do this. Everybody that lost someone knows how difficult it is to switch the melancholy from loss for inspiration of the lost figure, like joy and happiness. Can you do this? I would like to believe that, okay, the more I elude myself, that I remember that she's a source of happiness, but I feel that I can't be happy. We really need anything in our existence that it is as a function of others. In other words, I think that we exist as a function of others. It would not be worthwhile to exist or live in absolute solitude. It would make no sense. We wouldn't even be humans. Humankind is a plurality. It's a concept immediately plural. Humankind, right? Humanity. When? Isabel died suddenly. She was very happy, but she died all of a sudden, suddenly, and we had a very profound relationship, almost 30 years of friendship. So she was the other side of myself. It was something that was almost like a mirror to me. And she was in pure happiness. It was on an evening we were talking about things in her life. She was solving things in her life. She said, okay, Isabel was punk. I'm punk myself, but today I can't see myself as punk. Just look at me, because when I dress punk clothing, I look ridiculous, ludicrous. So inside I am gothic, punk, almost heavy metal, all that, and even more. And Isabel was purely punk. She was 70 years old. She had red hair. That's why my book has some red pages. Isabel, on that evening, she spoke to me. She said, baby. She called me baby. I want you to know that I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to accept this or accept that. Baby, today I decided that I don't know this, that, and the other. And she said, okay, Isabel. I said, you're kind of strange, Isabel. I said, is something going on? Because we were in a out on the night. The punks say we're out night. They said we're out on the night. They say in Portuguese, and it was a kind of thing that we were doing of a meeting of the buildings meeting. They were deciding things all the way from accounts and bills for our building, and I thought, this is not a normal night. I remember something is not normal about this night, and she said, baby, this night is incredible. She was so happy. I hadn't been that happy for 10 years. She died the next day. Okay, so there it is. And when she died, my nephew was on death's bed already, and we were being called on to the hospital constantly to bid farewell to that 17-year-old, my nephew. And it was a part of our daily life. We were waiting for that unavoidable news that our child was going to die, my nephew. And my mother, who has a tendency to panic attacks and everything, my mother was going through difficult times because she could see not only her grandson dying, but my brother and my sister-in-law, my other nephews and nieces, and Eduardo's brothers and sisters. The entire family was very sad, and I was trying to destroy. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and I have to support my mother. I was making an effort with my mother for what was horrible that was going to happen, for it not to be even more horrible, still with other people succumbing to sadness, which is pathological, right? And I reached a point where I thought to myself, I have to be sad, but I don't want my sadness to be a pathological sadness or a disease. I want the sadness to be especially the humor that we have for people, the love that we have for people, not for an infirmity, an illness. I can't have my nephew who can no longer not die, rather than offering me pride, immense pride for having been my nephew, offering me an illness that would destroy my life. So I could not allow this to destroy my life or the life of anybody. So when Isabel died, I left my home without my mother knowing it, and I went to the hospital at midnight with her, and my mother was sleeping, so I thought that she was indisposed or whatever, but a couple hours later, I went to see if she was okay, and I entered at 7 in the morning home, and with the news that Isabel had just died, and my mother woke up and saw me dressed. Are you already dressed? She said, okay. I woke up too early, but I thought that I was going to do some things, but I'm going to go to sleep now. I'm going to sleep a little bit longer. It was 7:30 in the morning. It was too early. And my mother asked, but is everything okay? I said, yes, everything is okay. And she said, but you're awake. It's kind of odd, but everything is fine. I said, if you need anything for me to get some water for you, anything, I said, everything is fine. And she went back to sleep. And I closed the door and I wept in my own bedroom.
and I felt I was eating my liver. But I had to do that because my mother was at a time where she had problems. So I was every day waiting for the news of my nephew's death. And every day I was going to hospital with my mother to make sure my mother wouldn't have a heart attack or something that would end her life as well. So I felt something could happen to me as well because I was under a lot of stress. So I said, well, I may be stressed, but I have to try to save whoever I can. At that moment, when I told my mother, that horrible night, I lost my mother. When I told my mother, I lost Isabel. When I told my mother, everything was fine. I noticed it was a way of avoiding sadness. To avoid sadness, overcoming the love I feel for Isabel, the proud. Well, I cannot come to flip and weep every time. The proud I have for having met Isabel. I know so many wonderful people. I kissed Elsa Soares in her mouth. Later, I found out she kissed many people in her mouth. This is something she always did when she took pictures, but I thought she did it only with me. Probably she kissed in the mouth Rodrigo Santoro as well. But I was saying I met so many wonderful people. Zelia Duncan right there. So many wonderful people I met. But Isabel, that few people met, even though she was very popular in my land, she was the most charismatic person I ever met. And I learned a lot from her. What moves me in Isabel was that Isabel had no evil in her heart. She was no virgin. She was no perfect woman. Not at all. She was all wrong. But she had no evil. Everything was about the way how she read things. She said, I'm frontal. I face things. So what she said was exactly what she felt. Sometimes we said, well, maybe, Isabel, you didn't understand it. So she said, I'm sorry, you're right. She was the easiest person to apologize, to thank, and to declare love. So I think she was the most charismatic person I've met. I wouldn't have loved to have children with Elsa Soares, but Isabel was even more charismatic than Elsa Soares. Can you imagine that? It's almost impossible. Yeah, for those of us who never met Isabel, we're very sorry. We're sorry. But one thing you said about Eduardo, when you speak about what happened to him, he died when he was almost 17, and you say you're sure he understood life better than virtually everybody else. And you're sure of that because of the way how he faces death. What do you mean by that? Eduardo faced life head on. He wanted to be informed from the very first visit. He wanted to know. And he immediately learned he had a terminal diagnosis. There had never a cure for that kind of cancer. So the person who lived longer with that cancer had lived 6 months. And Eduardo lived 2.5 years. So it was something beyond all expectations. But from the very first day, I knew he was condemned, and he knew about it, and he did not panic. Everybody else was highly disturbed, distressed, destroyed by the news, except Eduardo. Eduardo was never afraid. He had no crisis. He never wept. And I asked Eduardo, what do you think? Why do you think this is going on with you? And we were all ridiculous compared to him. He talked to us as if we were poor in spirit because we were all very dumb. He knew things and understood things that maybe we will never understand. So he would look at me and say, well, if it's a matter of statistics, this is going to happen to so many people. Why not me? And I'm perfect for this because I'm a pessimist person. I said, you're an idiot. Stupid. How can a child be a pessimistic? I've always been a pessimistic since I was 7 because I think people waste their lives. People give importance to things that have no importance. They waste time with the stupid things. And I look at adults and I say, I'm going to grow and I have to live with that kind of people. My world is going to be even more like these people's world. And these people are stupid and ridiculous. And I said, Eduardo, come on. I wanted him not to accept that the world was so horrible. So I said, but do you think the world is so bad? He said, no, the world is wonderful. The people are stupid. And he said, if it doesn't happen with me, according to statistics, it's going to happen with so many people, including youth and children. If not me, it will happen with somebody else. And this other person's uncle is going to ask him or her the same question. So it's just as unfair as the injustice that could happen to me. So it's not a matter of justice. It's just chance. And it was this relationship with Eduardo that triggered the feeling that made you write The Son of a Thousand Men. The book is well known, but now it's going to become even more well known because it's going to be distributed on a movie, so more people will get in touch with that story at a time when you're grieving this loss. Life is very curious. It's curious I'm back to Flip because of the movie, and the movie was written because of Eduardo, and we are at the moment overcoming grief for his death that occurred 1 year ago. I was in Colombia in a few events, and there I've met Hector Abade Parsolinsa, who was in the room next door when I was in Flip last time. While Hector, I had never met Hector again. So he invited me to be in his home, and I told him I'm going back to Paraty. Something happened in my life that was so beautiful there. And from the moment I'm back to Paraty, I come across him again. That was curious. Some things seem to adjust and make us feel comfortable, as if there were some favorable conspiracy for our sensitivity. So I may say that I'd love to have children. At the beginning, I didn't know how to have a child. I thought children could die, and I wouldn't be able to take care of a child. I was afraid to be alone with a child. I think children have something of a super psychiatrist, such as a psychoanalyst. We don't even touch, and children judge us. They look at us and they judge us. They say, this is one more madman. He's so weird. He doesn't like the things that normal people like. They are doing something boring. So for children, the adult's world is boring, and it means it's wrong. And this is how I feel. If I'm quiet next to a child, I think this girl or boy will say, Mom, never leave me alone with this madman again. He's dangerous. He's going to do something to me. So I was not ready to have children. But when I started taking care of Eduardo, for 1 year, I spent time with Eduardo all Mondays. First of all, I was very afraid, because I thought this child will destroy me. What can I do with a 2-year-old? All my life, I was saved from conversation. So how am I going to talk to a 2-year-old? I don't know what they talk about. I don't have the vocabulary. But Eduardo was very calm, very adult-like. He liked to draw, so he invited me to draw with him. So I started thinking, I thought, this child allows me to survive. And he never caused any harm. He never hurt me during the time I spent with him. And I changed a lot. During that year, I understood I was wrong. I made two silly dreams. I was silly about the adult world, and I never understood that there was nothing. I mean, books are wonderful, but if you compare a book with a child, you cannot compare. It would be ridiculous to compare. No book is comparable to a child. It will never be as wonderful as a child can be. So I dreamed stupid things, and you never had children. No, I don't know how to have children, I think. I don't know how to do it. I don't know, it never happened. I made some attempts with someone, but I cannot have a child on the other side of the Atlantic or a child with anyone. Isabel was 70 years old. She was much older than me. So well, it didn't happen. But who knows? It should be easier to have children. It shouldn't be pleasant only. It should also be easy. Having a place where we get a child. When you get there, you submit paperwork. They say, well, he's a nice person. He has no criminal antecedents. So give him a child. And the son of 1,000 men is about this. He gives some paperwork. He looks for a child without a dad because he's a dad without a child. That's all. But Daniel Rezende's movie, I just watched it and I loved it. I just loved it. I saw it 2 days ago, but today I don't love it so much anymore because maybe the movie is better than the book. And I only saw one movie, something by David Lynch, Wild at Heart, a movie that I love, and the book is horrible. Please don't tell anyone, but the book sucks. And I thought it was a paradigm. I would never see such a case. But now I'm going to be next to Wild at Heart. Wild at Heart and Son of 1,000 More, me and Barry Gifford will be the two of us desolate because the movie is better than the book. This book is very close to your heart, geographically, as you said. But long ago, you said you wanted this movie to be Brazilian, produced in Brazil. Why? The book is well received, well read. And in Brazil, there were people who who gave their children names such as Camilo, Valter, Hugo, Crisostomo. The first time I heard about it, I couldn't believe it. And many people came to talk to me because they thought they didn't want to have children. And they did because they read the book. Couples who do not agree. She wants to have children and he doesn't, or vice versa. And suddenly they come across this book, they read the book, and they understand that maybe having a child would make sense. And people people who don't want to have a child and then have one, they understand that having a child is the center of it all. The way how Brazilian readers reacted to the book was amazing to me. It had a huge dimension, and in many situations, when I feel particularly at a loss, when I don't like to be who I am, or I would rather not be suffering, I go back to these memories of the moments I spent with readers, and many readers in Brazil. So I think, well, it was worthwhile. Not all was lost. I don't know how to have children, but I didn't waste my life. I didn't live without doing something that was worthwhile. I'll show you a part from Education for Sadness. It reads, I was born in Angola. My parents are from Guimarães. I spent my childhood in Passos de Ferreira. I broke my heart with Brazil. I've been in Vila do Conde for 40 years. My parents' dream was to live in the government. I thought the meaning of it all was in Porto. Why Brazil broke your heart? What do you mean? Because I wanted to be Brazilians. I wanted to come to Brazil. I wanted to be here. I wanted to lose virginity in Brazil. Everything in Brazil looked more feasible. Even tragedies in Brazil are sunny. A tragedy in Europe is a tragedy under the rain. It rains for 6 months. It's about mist, a continuous night, a spectral night. The cities become ghosts. But in Brazil, there is pain, but people are brown, they get a suntan, they drink coconut water. There's banana, there's paçoca, there's milk sweet. So suffering here is a little better. It feels a little better.
Maybe that's the reason that a lot of people suffer and a lot of people make Brazil suffer. It's probably something people think, okay, let's create more suffering. Create it in Brazil because they can take it in Brazil. They've got sun there to keep them this gift of the sun in Brazil. I was split when I was a kid. I tell this a lot because it's true. When, for the first time, I had some money to purchase an airline ticket, when I could finally purchase a vacation, I was almost 30 years old. It was the first vacation that I paid for myself, international. I'm going to go someplace. I said, and I came to Brazil, obviously. I spent a month in Niterói to Ilha da Conceição. I have great affection for Niterói in Ilha da Conceição. I hate people badmouth Niterói. Okay, it's like the outskirts of Rio. It's chic. Niterói is beautiful. There's the Niemeyer Museum that you don't have in Rio, right? And people are beautiful that I saw. I have photographs and I can prove it in Niterói. It's like the Newark of Rio de Janeiro and everything. Every year I came on vacation. When I came in 2011 to flip from 2000 to 2010, I came to Brazil and I spent my vacation every year, 10 years in a row, every year. My friends asked, dude, aren't you going to go to India? Aren't you going to go to New York? Aren't you going? Why don't you pay to go Berlin? But I want to go to Niterói. That's my destiny. I want to be there in Niterói.
Acho que você vai elevar a autoestima de Niterói por bom tempo agora.
It's beautiful. People, if you've never been there, you don't know. On Ilha da Conceição, it was the fish bar. It was where you could purchase your drinks, and you had free, fresh fish. The fish were part of the. All you had to pay for was the beer. I don't drink alcohol or other things, but I wanted the fish. You eat the fish on a sheet of paper, like brown paper. It's kind of, but I loved it. Everybody was dancing. I don't dance. I can't dance. I'm a bad dancer. I can't dance at all, and much less forró. Forró is an overdone dance. I'm a peg leg myself, but some kinds of dances, I think, they're easier. Forró is really vibrant, so it's very intense, but I love to see people dancing because it's like I'm seeing people walking into the light. It's very extreme. I like to see people with this extreme happiness and extreme physicality. I think it was almost like they're going to rip their clothing off. I'm not impolite in that sense, but I was sitting there eating fish with the grease dripping down, or oil, or vegetable oil, and ruining my liver. It's not very sexy, but I discovered that in the fish bar, there was already somebody that wanted to hit on me, right? And that is very generous, right? You know, this idea that you can love eating fried fish, and even so somebody comes up to and likes you and hits on you. It's beautiful. It's a very Brazilian experience. It's a kind of humanness that I love, right? People hitting on me while I'm eating fried fish. It's fresh humanity. Okay, you aren't that handsome, but I'm gonna fuck you one way or another, okay? I love and I thank Niterói for that unforgettable experience. Anna was telling before we came out on the stage of what you read in 2011, where you were talking about the fact that Brazilians in Portugal were people that saw the future because they knew the end of the Brazilian soap operas, which had been on Brazilian TV months before. The Diseases of Brazil, your book is informed by the thinking of Elton Krenak, the indigenous author here from Brazil. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about whether if Brazil still symbolizes some kind of future for you. Look, I am the worst analyst of contemporary life because everything I believe is a country, and especially what I believed with regard to Brazil, everything appeared to be wrong, right? Oh, so I thought, several years ago I said that I thought that Brazilian citizens were mature citizens, that they didn't let themselves be fooled, that they had won a time, a splendor where they were not fools. Brazil is not for fools, right? It's not for dilettante. You can't hesitate in Brazil. Brazil is huge. There are jaguars coming from, I thought, Brazilian citizens. They were citizens, the populace of enlightened warriors, right? Okay, a year later I was surprised and alarmed. I thought that Brazilians would continue to be enlightened, but I'd seen anything that I did not understand, right? So I'm a terrible analyst or future teller attempting to understand contemporary life. I'm terrible at that because, generically speaking, I think everybody is cool, right? But in general, there's somebody who apparently isn't exactly cool, and I can't understand why they're not. But I fight a lot abroad. I'm called for other events and everything in other countries other than Portugal, and I fight for a certain image of Brazil because it's easy. Portugal is also coming with a terrible image, a country that has an image of constant bankruptcy. People in Europe we're always going bankrupt. We don't have any money. People that need support from the European Union, with people that have been 50 years to build an airport, a bullshit airport, and it's not going to happen. I'm going to die in the airport. It's not going to be finished. But everything is a big thing. Europe has train, bullet train, and others. I don't know how long it's going to take for us to have a bullet train. The city where I lived, I was 17 years of age, and the president promised some municipal swimming pools next to my home. And I thought, okay, I'm 18 years old. I'm going to be Rodrigo Santoro. I'm going to have a beautiful body and everything. I'm going to have a swimming pool right next to my home, just down the street. But it was built, a pavilion which has no swimming pool. When I was 48 years old, 30 years later, they needed 30 years to build that bullshit pavilion. There's no water, there's no swimming pool there. That's why I'm not Rodrigo Santoro. They were at fault. They're to blame. That prevented me from becoming so beautiful and handsome. Do you have anything to do with him being cast for Rodrigo Santoro, for him being cast in the film? Nothing to do. Okay, Valter. Okay. The people in the production, the first person that spoke to me was Juliana in the production of this film. They can say, I didn't want to do anything in the film. I understand that now. I regret it, but I didn't want to do anything. I thought that I should leave it to them. My passion for cinema perhaps might bring some background noise. I would try to interfere, or it wouldn't be this actor or that actress or the soundtrack, or include this song, include this, that, and the other. I thought I'm going to destroy the film if I start interfering. I would prevent Daniel from creating his own film, and I can't do cinema myself, so I'm going to destroy it. So some people spoke to me that they would like to have a role, but I wasn't brave enough to open up and say to Daniel anything about the film. It's his decision, lock, stock, and barrel. I could say that I believe that the cast is perfect. There are people in this cast who I discovered there in the cast who are totally perfect. They're perfect. The festivals, the film festivals, do not give awards to all those people in the cast. They're all wrong, the festivals. Even though it might be that your work is pales. Okay, I would prefer to watch the film. I'm not going to even read the book, but I try to be very fair. I think that I would not say that the film, or I would not say, I would never try to favor a book of mine against anybody, anything or anybody. If my book is not good, if it's good on its own, but it's not against anybody else's book or anybody else's film or anybody else's life, because I'm never competing with anybody else, just myself. The only thing that interests me and matters is to be able to better than I've been in the past, better than I am, but I'd never fall into this trap of thinking that I'm better than somebody else. Somebody else is another, they have their grander, another universe, another world. I don't even have the right to make this kind of comparison. Okay, I hadn't seen you. You like me too, right? Okay. Do you think I look handsome? How do I look inside view? Okay. In your work, there's a sensitive analysis of manhood, masculinity, and dissolution, the patriarchal logic that begins with adopting your mother and your invented last name, your surname. And last year, you launched a very beautiful book, My Mother is My Daughter. You can show it. It's a book based on a short text of yours illustrated, which moves, it takes another step in this relationship to your mother. You talk about you being caring for her in this work, the domestic work. I would like for you to talk a little bit about what you intend to do with this reversal of the traditional logic in the family. Okay, I don't try to do anything. I just take this evidence. My mother became my daughter. My mother, my daughter, because she's foolish. She talks a lot about foolishness. She wants a lot of things. She wants to eat fast food. I'm fat because she eats fast food and I eat it along with her, right? But Daniel is going to, now there is a nutritionist, right? So he's going to do something for my figure, right? Okay, my mother was very childish. I discovered that she mixes things and confuses them. She wants to continue to give me orders to be, she's the one that thinks and what I should do, what I should not do. But afterwards, she takes the position of a lot of being spoiled, and she wants new clothing, and so she wants to go to the hairdresser, and I'm working, and I need to work. I'm stressed. The life is a big source of stress, but I would like to be able to eat, I don't know where all, and I've got screwed. Donna Antonia will go, okay, I'll do what she wants and as her childish wishes. But a family is like that. The family, you navigate in the positions that you occupy. Family is like kind of a company. There is a financial department and everything. It's a company, a corporation, and you're in the CEO. And rather than being the CEO, you're the janitor in the company. You do everything, and that for one day you navigate in all the whole. There's an excerpt where you say, if you don't marry, you don't have brothers, just bosses. My siblings, I love my siblings, but they're my bosses, right? Because I and my mother are ordered because by cell phone, okay, mom, mother, she's kind of sad. I don't know what else she needs to eat, right? They're ordering me over the cell phone to give her some food. Okay, maybe she needs to have some tea. Okay, they call me, right? Like my mother, it would be good for her to have some tea. In other words, go give her some tea, right? Make tea for her. She needs to eat. She wanted to eat codfish, right? Go buy the codfish and make the codfish for her. Okay? The miracle of codfish, write down the miracle of the codfish that swims into her house. I'm the codfish miracle. I'm there, the Virgin Mary, producing miracles every day, producing codfish in the middle of her house because I follow the orders from my siblings because they become the bosses of the corporation. They call me and say, did you turn the lights off? Mom is saying that the light doesn't come on, right? Did you turn the lights off? The light falls on, you have to turn it off, otherwise it increases your light bill. You have to go back, you have to go check in mom's house. You see, it's all falls on me, right? I'm in charge of everything. I at home and I on the corner buying the codfish and making tea. You have this position of this housework. It's unpaid housework. Normally it's women. You're one of the few men. That's why my manhood is so problematic, because I do my mother's housework, right? That probably explains why my manhood is so problematic. I don't have the right to be a conventional man. In the ancient traditions, I'm not ferocious and fierce. I don't even have patience to have this ferocity. I confront all these challenges with a lot of sensitivity and tenderness. If this is but there's a drama behind it, because when we go, everything is me at the doctor's. Mostly, I will go back to Portugal. I have to go back on the 17th in the morning. My mother has an appointment at the doctor the day after I get back from Brazil, and she only understands the appointments and accepts the diagnosis if I'm at her side. If I'm not there, she doesn't accept the diagnosis. Of course, I would prefer to be in São Paulo, go to Rio de Janeiro, Bahia, and stay there eating pudim de leite, custard, milk custard. But I have to go back to Portugal because of my mother. But I have accepted this role. I'm accommodated. I'm very grateful as well because of the fact that my mother complains to me. Right? Just imagine if you have a child, a son or a daughter, if they complain to you, you accept it proudly. Just imagine if your child is in somebody's hands, but you take your child, they acknowledge that you are a structure, right? And I have this pride to think that my mother, if she's not well, she's well if I'm there, right? This can mean that I won't stay in Brazil eating milk custard, pudim de leite, but it's a kind of grace in my life. A lot of times the doctors, when they say, okay, you need medical follow-up. Don't you have any siblings? I say, sometimes my mother hates this, and I say, sometimes I say, okay, one thing or another. Either I am a single child or I'm the only one that's not a child, but I'm not equal to my or identical to my other siblings. Anything that I don't not identical to other people, right? I do anything, and my mother's furious at that. Don't say that. You do have siblings. You have 2 sisters and 2 brothers. Where are they now, right? I'm here at the doctor's appointment, right? But I love, at the same time, I feel great pride for this place that I occupy in the companies. I have this position. It's a position that takes effort. It appeals to my effort, but at the same time, it's very gratifying because I know that it's in my power to help, truly help, to make a change for my mother to be well, for people to be better, right? And this is great for me. Walter, this is going to be because sudden. We have to finish. We just have 1 minute left. But I'm going to ask you, you could even tone down, but I'd like you to tell me something you told me during lunch that we had yesterday, that Brazil's participation in FLIP in 2011 was an happening, and she received weekly invitations to come to Brazil, but he decided to wait a year to accept a new invitation to come to Brazil as a writer. Why did you wait a year? Because I panicked. I was afraid. I said it was something so phenomenal, so disproportional. I was alarmed and frightened, and I thought it was important to go back substantially because of, or rather, because if I knew what my books are, if people knew that they could wait for a writer whom they would perhaps like the books and not precisely to see a figure, what happened, something happened to kind of strange. That person, Valter Craveira, but it's another Valter, a great photographer, Walter Craveiro. This is a Walter plot here. They're plotting. There are 3 Walters, but I wanted to wait when I accepted the invitation to come back. I had the feeling that people that were in the audience had my book in their hands and had read the book, and they could like my, which I thank them for, but especially it was important for them to have respect for my work, which that was in the final analysis should justify my return to Brazil. The work, the book, and literature, and a counter between authors and readers, or between people who like to read. Okay, so this was Valter Hugo Mãe. There you have him. Thank you.